Thank you for tuning in to the Live Now podcast. I'm your host, Nate Kingsley, and today is the first ever Live Now bonus cast. The reason I'm coming out with this bonus cast today is because I actually start my doctor of physical therapy program tomorrow, and my guest is a doctor of physical therapy. His name is Zak Gabor. He is all-around cool dude, but more importantly for this conversation, he is a kick-ass physical therapist. In this conversation, we talk about leveraging your DPT degree and leveraging yourself and how you can kind of do what he calls a side hustle as a physical therapist. Super cool conversation, and be sure to check him out. He is Simple Strength Physio on the gram, and he is coming out tomorrow with his new series, Navigating the Biopsychosocial Model. And usually when he does these series, they turn into gold. So definitely give him a check out, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Zak.
Even just posting about it, people will listen to it, and it might help grow a following.
Well, what you said yesterday, it's just like, even if you reach out to one person, or that one kid in PT school listens to it and they're just like, yo, I fucking love what that person has to say.
Well, that's why part of what I wanted to talk about today was how, like, you talk about leveraging networks, like, becoming friends with Matt, ultimately hooking up with you and Nick, like, afforded us the opportunity to present our workshop at a place, presented me the opportunity to guest lecture at Springfield College.
Yeah.
Presenting at Springfield College got me the ability to get more people from Springfield interested in what I have to do. That ultimately ended up letting me lecture again for clinical athlete at Springfield College, which only helped grow more people into following what I'm doing. So it's like one person can go such a long way in terms of building opportunities. It's fucking nuts. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
For sure. I put the parental advisory thing on there.
All right, good.
Yeah. So I guess, what do you mean by leveraging yourself?
Are we rolling right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So leveraging yourself is basically so if we break it down to the topic we wanted to talk about, which was what else can you kind of do besides having your DPT and working in a clinic, you kind of need to realize how to tap into other parts of yourself that you're passionate about and realize how you can potentially make some extra income on that, because the floor is great for post-grad PT life financially, but the ceiling is pretty low. Unless you want to own your own clinic, which is that's a whole nother headache. But if you're passionate about it, then that's one way to go. But for me, I never want to own my own clinic. So I had to figure out how to kind of make extra money doing something that I loved. And so for me, I always loved teaching. I got to teach quite a bit in PT school. And I realized that
you got to teach while in PT school?
Yeah. So when I was in after I took my first summer anatomy, I became a tutor for Ithaca, and I tutored anatomy for undergrad students. Then I was asked to be a teaching assistant for musculoskeletal exam.
That's awesome.
Then I was asked to be a teaching assistant for another, it was the modalities class, but it was still a good experience. And then ultimately I interviewed for the super competitive, TA spot for summer anatomy for intro level, what you're going to be doing next week.
Yeah. The
intro level gross anatomy. And so, there's 80 kids in my class and there's 5 spots. And so I was able to land that. And that was that was it. That was that sealed the deal for me in terms of knowing that teaching was what I really wanted to do and just how much I loved anatomy. So just building off that, I was and from the feedback I got from students, they were like, we love you as a teacher. It's when you're doing something, when you're teaching about something that you love, it comes across as passionate. And to be honest, that's probably what makes the best teachers anyway, because you're holy crap, I don't even know what they're talking about, but I'm inspired right now, so I want to learn more about it. And I had always just thought, I knew I wanted to teach, but then stumbling across people on social media, I was man, I didn't realize that was kind of it was kind of a new space coming out of school. I didn't really realize that social media was a space for people in rehab, but it was starting to become one.
Yeah.
So Matt Ibrahim was...
In terms of educating people.
Yeah, educating people and making it a side hustle.
Yeah, see, that's something that I still don't really understand.
Side hustling?
Yeah, on social media.
So what don't you understand about it?
I just don't like. I understand the like networking portion of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean how it kind of like builds on top of
Yep.
itself. But I just don't. I guess I just don't know enough about it.
So basically, within itself, running an Instagram account isn't per se a monetary side hustle, because I don't get paid to run my Instagram account. But what my Instagram account has led opportunities to is teaching courses in real life where people pay to come. So that's one way that we've made money, and that's huge. So for me, that's how I've monetized my Instagram account. But ultimately, now I've garnered enough of a following where eventually, whatever I do end up wanting to do, whether it's like launch this online course that's basically a continuing ed module for students that's affordable, that's another way that I can monetize the Instagram
that was
account.
a really cool idea. And I think that people are going to jump all over that. Especially because you have teaching experience, and now you're actually... What course are you teaching?
So this summer I'm going to be teaching a course, basically strength and conditioning concepts for outpatient orthopedic rehab. So it'll be like, I'll be getting a really good guest lecture from an awesome, like purely strength and conditioning coach that I know, who will be kind of going over like the programming aspect of it and some of like the foundational strength and conditioning stuff. But then I'll be coming in and talking about, all this stuff is super important, but it's not such an easy, like, you can't just take strength and conditioning and then plop it into a rehab setting, because when pain is involved, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But all those concepts hold place, and you need to understand them to build off of it. And so basically what I do is I take that, I sprinkle in how pain science helps us make sense of it and how it applies to the rehab setting. So it's going to be a 6-week course, with 1 lecture a week. And I think if I'm putting all the work in this winter to make all those lectures, I think it would be a really cool thing to just, I don't have any affiliations to any companies or anything like that. So kind of like an independent contractor in terms of like rogue education. And it's kind of cool though, because it gives me a lot of autonomy on what I want to teach. And so I've always loved mentoring students. Lucky for me, like I got to TA for anatomy. I also got to TA so that was TAing for kids 2 years younger than me, and I got to TA for kids a year younger than me. And at Ithaca,
that's pretty crazy.
And at Ithaca, there's 80 students, let's say, plus or minus in each grade. So essentially, before I even graduated, I was mentoring like a lot of kids. Like out of 160 kids, like the really passionate ones were looking up to me for guidance, and I love that. So that's part of what I want to link into this little educational online venture, is like a mentorship series, because that's such a fulfilling role for me. And to be able to the goal isn't to make a killing financially, but if I can start to just make some passive income on doing something that I love, like that's epic side hustle right there.
Yeah, for sure. Instagram and social media kind of create like a highway for you to jump off at various points to monetize that side hustle.
Exactly.
I got you.
That's exactly it. It's Instagram right now is just such a good space for getting your name out there and for networking, and that's what leads to opportunities. So like we started, I don't know if that part was recorded on the podcast, but how me and you met through Matt. And then,
I feel like a lot of people could say that with Matt. Matt freaking...
But look at Matt now. He's, he has part ownership in a company with the ex-performance coach for that Los Angeles Lakers. Matt's eaten a lot of shit sandwiches in terms of not having a true home. Like, he helped build Boston PT and Wellness up, no doubt. And, that's why he's part of our family. And even though he's not here, he's still, here, and we're hoping to collaborate down the road with him. But he has a great opportunity now. But I'll say to this day, the thing that Matt does the best is network. You can't not love the kid when you meet him, because he's just so authentic and passionate.
And he treats you as his best friend immediately. Yeah, and he genuinely cares about you and what happens to you, and he wants to help you any way that he can. But you have the same. You're a little bit more not as enthusiastic as him when you first meet him, but you're the exact same way. Which is why that mentorship role you definitely like, because you're good at it.
And thank you. And I have to agree to an extent, because I think that's what's allowed me to leverage my social media following is just by making these like good relationships. Like it doesn't cost you anything to be nice to someone, and like if someone is passionate and wants to learn from you, you learn from them too, and it's just a great beneficial relationship. Like you can tell within seconds if you're going to hit it off with someone.
Yeah, agreed.
And so like Matt, like I literally just read his bio online after stumbling across his stuff.
Love this guy.
I stumbled across his stuff when I was in my final year of PT school on the Personal Trainer Development Center. You know that website, like the PTDC on Facebook? Yeah. So I saw his article, I liked his article, and then I went to his bio and I was like, this dude is fired up about life. Like, I love it. I literally shit you not, I just reached out to him via email and I said, dude, I don't know what I expect besides to start some dialogue, but I really appreciate what you're doing. I think that, like, I love your passion. I love that you're trying to bridge the gap between rehab and performance because, 3 years ago, this was still kind of like a new concept. Like, it wasn't as huge as it is now. Like, I feel like now that's like what everyone's trying to do, and rightfully so.
The strength and conditioning in a PT setting?
Yeah. But like 3 years ago, like that and social media were kind of like on the up and up. And I literally just reached out to him, and that's what ended up landing me this job here, was getting the opportunity to interview. But then, like I said, like you end up meeting other people through him. Like I meet you, we end up lecturing, we end up, presenting our workshop at a gym that you were affiliated with. We end up I go guest lecture at Springfield College. That ends up getting me the opportunity to present in front of more people who can sense the authenticity and then support your mission. And then you have followers for life. Like you're not going to grow to like 1 million followers in a day, but with this model of networking and building authentic relationships, you get really good engagement. And that I think is like way more big picture and not just like trying to make the quick buck.
Yeah,
it's like you're doing what you love. It's big picture stuff, and you're playing the long game, but it's slow, organic growth.
But the long game is sort of merging having a huge following and that expression of like I'd rather be loved by 10 than liked by 1,000.
Yeah.
Now you can be loved by 1,000 if you just put the work in and you show those 1,000 people that it's like, hey, I actually give a shit.
Yeah.
I actually care. Let's build a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like, it doesn't cost you anything after PT school to hustle a little bit. And, I guess the biggest thing is you kind of have to find the space that you want to occupy, because social media is not for everyone, nor would I expect it to be. But
now, when did you kind of choose? So like when you were in your final year, you say that you email Matt and you reach out to him.
Yep.
Did you have any concept of like what direction you wanted to go into, or?
I just knew that I wanted to do something that was bridging the gap by integrating strength and conditioning. I knew I wanted to learn more about strength and conditioning and how that plays into rehab, because I just felt so, not slighted, because I love my education at Ithaca College. I think I'm very grateful for my PT education. That being said, I think that there needs to be reform in the curriculum, and that the strength and conditioning side of it is like a joke. So I knew that I really wanted to learn more about that and just blend that in. I was also considering a residency. I was like pretty gung-ho about doing a residency out of school.
I remember you telling me that.
But, I ended up talking to teachers, and I think I ended up missing out by one person, the UDEL sports residency, but it was the best thing to ever happen to me, because they're uber competitive, and it's just, it kind of forces you into a model. Whereas when you go out on your own, you're kind of forced to like fail and suck. But in that process, you grow like a million times more.
Yeah.
Like the stress of it, and I don't mean like stress and like, oh, this is so stressful. Like the stress of failing. Like the same way that you would stress a muscle to grow is the same way like sucking in your first couple months, year of being in the clinic really teaches you how to grow back into even a better therapist. So there's definitely value to that in terms of like not going gung-ho into the residency world right out of school. But I just knew I wanted to get out and work in a place that had autonomy and didn't force you to see like 1 million patients a day.
Gotcha.
That was like actually one of my biggest important things when interviewing places, was not working in a clinic that made you see like double booking all the time, put an emphasis on volume rather than quality.
Yeah.
That
you guys
huge.
Definitely have a huge emphasis on quality. The one-on-one time that you guys have here is crazy. You guys, like, even yesterday I stopped by and that your patient walked in, you're like, oh, dude, what's up? He's like, give me some nut. Like, you're friends with these people.
Yeah.
And you can turn that into their treatment being just that much better.
Yeah, you can't put a price on, the quality. And again, that's kind of a model for big picture, right? Like, Dave, my owner, is so smart and savvy, and he's not worried about the difference of me seeing 13 patients a day versus 15 patients a day or 18 patients a day, because those like 10 to 12 patients that I treat a day are gonna fucking love it. And then they're gonna we run on Google reviews and word of mouth. But when you give
you guys have a 5 right now.
Yeah.
5 stars
with like over 60 reviews, because when we put our heart and soul into it and we go over and above for every single patient that walks in this door, you can tell. And they want to write a review, and that's great. But like, when I've been in the other mills where you're forced to see X amount of patients in a day, and the therapists aren't inherently bad. Like, I know some really great therapists that are in this model, but they just can't succeed because there's a volume,
Yeah, they're
like
almost
precedent.
Like set up for failure, even though
exactly.
they're great.
But I think it's funny how that kind of shadows like any sort of business goal, is like put an emphasis on the quality rather than the quantity, and like that's more big picture stuff rather than trying to make the quick buck.
Yeah,
because if Dave's trying to see 20 patients in a day, we'll probably make a quicker buck, but we'll also be detrimental to our business in the long term.
Yeah, then the quality goes down, word of mouth goes down.
Yep.
Because you're like, oh, Boston PT really isn't that great.
Yeah.
But now it's like anyone that comes here, they're like, oh, I saw Zach, he fixed my knee right up, that guy's the man. And so now you have a whole new set of clients and patients who can come in here.
Yeah, and we get patients that come from clinics down the street that are the mills, and they're like, I just didn't feel like I was getting quality care. And I was like, I'm not going to go out there and just like shit all over them and badmouth them. I'm just going to be like, all right, well, I'm glad you're here, because like we're going to crush it.
Yeah.
And then we build up a game plan together, and the best thing about working here too is that it's 4 other therapists, but we all work very collaboratively. So it's like, just because one of the other therapists, let's say Steph or Danielle, has a patient, like I'm involved in that plan of care.
Yeah.
So not only are they not working with one person, but it's like they're working with 4 therapists basically, which is awesome.
4 heads combined.
Yep.
Trying to treat that one person.
Yep. And that's some powerful stuff right there. It's a good model.
It is, for sure.
But it's tough, man. The insurance world is a tough business.
Yeah, well, I don't really want to get into that right, because that just gets so convoluted.
Yep.
But no, I want to circle back. So reaching out, did you reach out to anyone before Matt? Because that's something that I find, because I did exercise science.
Yep.
And that's just like what every strength coach usually does if you want to get your bachelor's in it and get your CSCS. But a lot of kids don't reach out. Like they just are afraid.
Yep.
To just contact someone and be like, hey, like, mind if I come stop by, like, see what your shit's about?
Yeah.
Did you do that anytime before, Matt?
Yeah, I did actually. One of the first people that I ever reached out to was Dr. John Russin.
Oh shit!
So this was back.
Who's a big name now? Was he at the time?
Well, kind of. He was. This was back when T Nation was still, in my opinion, like pretty like. Not that it's not respectable now, but it's kind of fallen out of my great grace, just because I think that it's got a little clickbaity and like it's kind of missing the mark for me. But I think T Nation was where I started, as like from bro.
That's where
that's where you get your advanced bro science degree is T Nation. But they had great stuff. Like they had guys like Tony Gentilcore, Mike Boyle, Robertson, like all these guys that I have a tremendous amount of respect for that led me into their worlds and ultimately their websites and stuff, like Tony Gentilcore. And then I saw John Russin and I was like, this guy's a physical therapist on T Nation. I was like, that is so freaking cool. Like K-Star, like guys like K-Star. They were pioneers in terms of opening the door for hybrid therapists, if you will. So I loved John's stuff, and I had reached out to him.
Now, when was this? Was this like...
This was my 6th year in PT school. So this was back in 2014, 2015. And I was like, similarly to Matt, I was like, look, Dr. Russin, like, I just wanted to let you know, like, I think it's so awesome what you're doing for the profession of PT. Like, love your stuff. I don't even know if it's possible. Like, here's my resume. Like, I'm a really highly motivated individual. Like, I would just love to, like, get some advice and guidance on, like, getting a similar path that you had. He hopped on, like, an hour Skype call with me.
Oh, really?
So, like, me and John Russin talked for, like, an hour, and, like, that was huge. Like, that was so motivational for me because, you know, not only getting to pick his brain, but also, like, just showing that all you have to do is reach out. Like, it's not always going to be a hit. Like, you're not always going to, the chemistry might not always match between someone that you reach out to that you look up to. You know what I mean? Like, not only that, but they might be busy. They might not have time. Like, whatever. You can't expect it to happen, but you have nothing to lose by trying. Yeah. So, but that showed me, I was like, whoa, like, that was really cool. And it kind of inspired me to not be scared to reach out to people because worst case scenario, they don't answer you.
Yeah. And especially in this field, I mean, like, even the big names, which, I mean, I'm sure that John Russin at the time was still as big as he was now, or is now.
Probably not as big as he is now, but he was
still a big name.
But he was still, because if you were on T Nation, you like made it.
Yeah, you're a big guy in the field.
Exactly.
But, I mean, even he's just like, this guy's, like, super stoked to talk to me about this. He's clearly passionate about it.
Yep.
Those types of people in this field are always looking to get kind of the up-and-comers to be like, yeah, man, like, let me talk to you.
Yeah.
Let me mentor you a little bit.
Well, I actually was almost considering, like, we had talked about me interviewing to potentially even, like, go out and, like, work under him and, like, mentor under him. But I was like, nah, I'm not going to Madison, Wisconsin. But he was still super nice. And that has always, like, resonated with me. And even though, like, he can have a little bit of a reputation of being kind of a hardo in the field, like, I'll always have some love for him in terms of what he's doing for trying to promote strength and conditioning into the physical therapy field, and just being that guy that was, you know, humble enough to have a conversation with a lowly PT student that was reaching out. So that's always been an emphasis for me, is like, if anyone ever reaches out to me and doesn't just come across like a dingbat that's just like, hey, here's my site, would you mind promoting it? Like, that's why I think it's important to also take into account, like, what's the right way to go about reaching out to someone, because there is a right way and a wrong way. The wrong way being, like, making it about you, and in a sense of, like, what can you do for me, and, like, here's my stuff, like, can you promote me? Like, if you ask for a favor right off the bat like that, like, that's wild.
That ain't the way to do it.
But, you know, you see it time and time again, like, and if you look at some of the really big successful entrepreneurs and, like, motivational guys like Lewis Howes or Eric Thomas, like, they'll talk about, like, the keys to networking is, first thing you can do is just, like, and I posted about it the other day, and it was probably one of my favorite posts that I've ever done, because I'm so grateful to networking, which is basically just, like, you need to just engage with them first, kind of just follow their stuff, like their stuff, but reach out to them and just praise them for how grateful you are for the work that they do. Because if you truly admire them, then that's easy to do, because you're like, dude, thank you for what you do. Like, I'm, like, truly appreciative of the work that you contribute to this field, and keep it up. It can be as simple as that. But when I get, like, now it's at a point now where, you know, I have 11,000 followers on Instagram, which isn't that crazy in the grand scheme of things, but it's not nothing. It's at a point where I get students.
Pretty crazy for me.
It's cool, and I get students that message me that are like, dude, thank you for being, like, a voice of reason in this crazy field. Like, thank you for your authenticity and, like, the content that you provide. Like, it's really, like, inspirational and motivational for us. And, like, when I get stuff like that, I'm like, yes, dude. And, like, how can I help you? Like, It just makes me so much more willing to want to forge a relationship with them and look out for them and help them any way I can.
Yeah.
So
that's how I felt. I mean, I guess 2 years ago, now that I've known you. Yeah. Because it's just like, I was a student. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. Well, I still am a student. And I was like, this guy's cool as fuck. I was like, this guy really knows what's going on. He's super nice, super informed, and he just puts out great content and does it in a way that I can align myself with.
Absolutely. And, like, I would, like, if you ever needed anything from me, like, in a heartbeat, you know what I mean? Like,
well, right now, this is it.
Yeah, this is great. Like, if you ever needed, like, a any sort of like letter of recommendation. Like those are the sorts of things where like you can't like get exactly like how you're going to monetize or like an ROI on like networking, but you never know when networking is going to come back and reward you. So it's one of those kind of like intangible things, but the more networking you do, and not so much on quantity, but the more quality networking that you do, the better it's gonna pay you back down the road, because you're only gonna benefit from those from those relationship opportunities that present.
Yeah, no, for sure, totally agree.
It's crazy.
Now, what's because you just were talking about you did the TA job and you're like, oh, this is what I want to do. Have you considered just
straight up teaching?
Yeah,
I have. That's so. I'm sitting. I'll be sitting for my SCS next year, my sports certification specialty, and after that, I want to think about like at least getting a adjunct position at a curriculum, but I kind of go back and forth about full-time teaching. I love teaching so much. It's like anytime I get to lecture, like that lecture at Springfield, that was actually one of my favorite lectures of all time.
You could tell.
Like I left and I was like on a high. Like the drive home, I was like calling my sister. Meanwhile, I had just got back from Virginia on like a red eye and like drove straight to Springfield. I was running on like little to no sleep, and I remember talking to my sister and like my girlfriend Steph, who was like one of my mentors and someone I looked up to, and I was like almost on the verge of tears because I was like, I just killed that lecture so much. It was so fun, and like they freaking loved it, and it was amazing. And that right there is just like, man, you can't replace that feeling, and when it's right, no. So I definitely consider doing teaching full time down the road, but I also don't want to sort of limit my ceiling as well in terms of like other entrepreneurial enterprises, whether it's like running an online course or like sort of educational company, other opportunities like having some part ownership in this clinic, Boston PT and Wellness. Like I think there's other avenues financially that could be a little bit more rewarding, and I could still get to do what I love. So it's not out, but I just don't know yet as of now. But education of some sort is in my immediate future. Like,
and I mean, it seems like now that you have this one course, you've done a couple of guest lectures now. Because didn't you do one at, you did one at Ithaca, right?
I did one at Ithaca. I did two at Springfield, one at Springfield and one at UMass Lowell.
Gotcha. So I mean, maybe that could be something too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love guest speaking. So even I want to start to look into even just like getting more speaking gigs, just being a guest lecturer at different universities, and even more so, another thing I'm really passionate at is helping be part of the reform in PT and the curriculum. Like I really want to help influence young generations of physical therapists that want to see the change in their curriculum to get it to more of this like current evidence-based model, which is taking away a lot of the modality coursework. I mean, I had a 4-credit class on ultrasound and STEM. That's crazy.
Damn. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's crazy. Like, you could spend 4 credits
somewhere
on
else.
So much better. Like, pain science education, strength and conditioning, like, things that are backed up by the research. Like, exercise and pain science is probably 2 of the most evidence-supported things right now in PT. So, I get it that the curriculum is the way it is, but there has to be reform, because it's just not doing it justice when kids are complaining every year, like studying for their boards. They're like, are you kidding me? Like, I have to memorize the protocol for using ultrasound, even though I'm never going to use it in the clinic. Like, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
So I really want to help be part of the change, and that's why I think building these relationships with younger PT students is part of doing that, because if I
get a following of people who want it to change.
Right, because not only that, but they're the next generation of influencers. Like, these PT students that look up to me are going to be doing what I'm doing in a couple of years, influencing the next generation. So that's so awesome to be able to have that kind of like effect on trying to change the profession and just like be an open-minded, like reasonable human, because there's just so much like polarized people that it's important to come back down to earth and be a little bit level-headed about why we're doing what we're doing and making sure that it's backed up by the research.
Yeah, and I think that you are very level-headed.
I try to be. Because it's easy to fall down rabbit holes, but at the end of the day, like, principles don't lie. You know what I mean? Like, if we use, like, more principles, then that's going to allow us to kind of, like, be more creative but at the same time, like, sticking to what we know.
Yeah.
And not creating false
finding better
narratives.
options to teach people like me up and coming, so in 4 years I could be a better PT.
Yeah.
And then your field that you helped create is now better for it.
Amen.
No, I love it. And then, well, we actually are about like 30 minutes deep, so I don't want to keep you too much longer.
Yeah.
But I got a couple more questions for you.
Go for it, man.
So, I guess it seems like you're getting pulled in like a shitload of directions.
Yeah, a little bit.
It seems like your head's like wanting to do 5 or 6 different things. So what's like the next 5 years or so look like for you? Or do you have any idea?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And yes, I think like as much as my head does get pulled in different directions, there's some like overlapping like commonalities behind all of it, which also comes back to like education and also like my love for this company, Boston PT and Wellness. So ultimately my goal in 5 years is I would love to have some sort of like ownership role in this company and helping it grow. Probably not doing as much clinical hours, and then starting to invest in my own educational platform, you know, like starting with this course that's coming out. And that's why I'm like, I thought I wanted to go like full-time teaching at like a university, but I don't know. I just feel like there's so much opportunity out there in terms of being an independent contractor, so to speak. And it's kind of like exciting.
I like that idea a lot.
Right, like a rogue sort of educator, because that's always kind of like resonated with me too, though. I've always kind of been like, not like the crazy person in class, but like in school, like my friends would be like, why are you so fired up about all this stuff all the time? Like, and like even being on my pain science kicks, like you're kind of like the crazy person, but you know, it's important to find what you're passionate about and not feel like I have to be in a model like or a system that I'm confined in. So
yeah, you make your own system.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and my system is just based on all the other great principles from all the other systems that are out there. They all work, but you know, so I guess the next 5 years would be having some part ownership in this company and helping it grow, and making this company something that puts an emphasis not only on quality but also like educationally, creating like a fantastic internship program here. We do a great job already of like getting students in the door that either want to come shadow for the day, but PT students that come in. It's just a very educational environment in here. So I want to continue down that route of like making this a sort of like epicenter of knowledge, if you will. Like I want it to be a place that people are like, ooh, like I got an internship at Boston PT and Wellness. Like, it's going to be fucking dope. I'm going to learn so much. I can't wait. Like, that's kind of what my goal is, to make Boston PT and Wellness, and then just continue to create my own platform. And whether it be doing some adjunct stuff down the road at a university, or just creating my own coursework and online stuff and traveling, speaking, like that's kind of where I see my next 5 years.
I love the online class platform personally, because I mean, and you know this, it's just when you want to learn, the people who are truly passionate in this field take outside courses. Yeah. So it's like I did like the PRI thing. I know that you did like the dry needling stuff. You did.
I did a 6-month mentorship where I was there. I was at a guy who did a PNF residency, and he is like an SFMA instructor now. And we did 6 months of 4 hours a week. You know, going to his place and just
I remember you
studying. So that was.
This was the guy that got you all fired up on the pain science, right?
Or is this he was more the guy that got me fired up into like how important neuro was, like neuro concepts in rehab.
Gotcha.
But still, like that was a huge learning opportunity for me, and I mean, you seek it out if you're hungry.
But my point exactly, now you're making it super easy to seek it out, because you're just like, hey, here's this online platform. I imagine that it's going to be, because to go to some of these places of a fellowship or mentorship like that doesn't cost you anything, but sometimes they can if you want to go.
Oh, the mentorships and the residencies?
Yeah.
No, they're really expensive. They're really freaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're freaking residencies. So the thing with a residency is you don't pay for it per se, but you get paid a salary that's like junk. You basically get paid a third of what you would make as an actual DPT.
Does a mentorship?
The mentorship that I got with Ramez was out of pocket. I paid for that.
Oh shit!
And it wasn't.
Oh, I had no idea.
And it wasn't like, well, because he's giving up his time too. He's a cash-based PT, and he's giving up.
I brought this up.
He's giving up his time to design a course and mentor me and take me through it, which I'm forever grateful for. So that was some of the best money I ever spent on continuing it.
Damn. Okay.
But yeah, mentorship is not free for sure.
I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, like a formal month-long, whatever, 6-month-long mentorship is not free usually. Like I'll have students that I have good relationships with that I will be like an informal mentor to, that like we'll hop on the phone, once every couple weeks, like shout out to my boy Nico. He was one of my favorite students that we still catch up, like once every couple of weeks, but I love getting to be a mentor to him. But
that's more informal is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's more informal. But I think having a more structured mentorship where like I have students taking these lectures, which is a lot of like my thought process and how I apply it logically into rehab. And then like having like once a week we do like a Google Hangout where we just like all hop on a video and we kind of just like talk about case studies or like any questions. Like that's kind of how I see it playing out, and I think it could be really, really cool.
Well, I guess that further proves my point, because if you now have 6 people dividing up that cost of what that one mentorship could be, then you're making it much more affordable for these people to get this great information out
Well,
there.
That's exactly it, because if I'm putting the time in now over the next 6 months to create all this content, then it's essentially like passive income, because obviously it's going to tweak. Like if your educational stuff isn't tweaking every year, like you're not doing it right. Like you need to make sure that it's currently being updated, but the bulk of it's going to be there. And why not make some money off of that? You know what I mean? And not only that, but make a difference and like help help people and do what you love. Yeah, so I can get. I have no idea like the true logistics of it, but if I can get like 10 to 15 students, let's say, doing like a 6 to 8 week course online where it's very affordable, now it's great. Everyone wins. You know what I mean? Like they're getting free, like a cheap education that's quality, and getting to, a mentorship out of it as well, which is huge.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. I think that's one of my biggest goals for 2018 is to make that happen.
And I mean, you seem pretty fired up about it, so I think that you're going to.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
I'll get it done.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up. Thank you for doing this. That was awesome.
Yeah, I hope it was helpful, and that's pretty much it. I appreciate you having me on.